He says, if you notice in German, the word for night is Nacht, N-A-C-H-T. And he says the word for 8 is Acht, A-C-H-T. Well, now, what he says is that is tantamount to this recognition of an evolution of consciousness, a movement out of the cavern-bound world where you had the 7 starry, the 7 planetary bodies moving against the background of the fixed stars as the cavern of the night. When you drop the N from that, you get Acht, and then Achtung, which means attention, waking. So there's an association with the movement out of 7 into 8, with a movement simultaneously out of the cavern world into 3-dimensional perspectival space. So he notices these little details. And he traces that through all the language families in Europe, too. You can find that. Even in our word night and 8, they sound very similar. If you drop the N, you go from night to 8. And the other thing, and also notice that her garment is the same color as the starry sky here. This is a sort of idea that we are enclosed within the womb of space-time. This is the old Egyptian idea where the sky goddess is Nut, and she encloses us within her womb. As indeed for the Hindus, the world was this enclosed womb. The goddess Maya was herself space-time, within which forms came pouring into being. So we have this sort of vestigial echo of this Egyptian cosmology where the woman, the goddess, is configured as the closed world. And also this is the period of Notre Dame, our mother, who is the gigantic cathedral within which you go, and you're sort of enclosed within this womb. And within that womb, spiritual possibility, in the physical womb, but the etheric body is sort of building the infant and working on its energies, the embryo. Within the spiritual cavern, you have these spiritual energies working on it. So you're sort of being developed that way. You can start to see this opening up back here. There's a little opening, tiny little window there. And then another painting of Fra Angelico's, which is later, 1450. Now we get this sense of, this is a real backyard. It looks like somebody's backyard fence here. It's not a symbolic one. There's a slow awakening to the outer world. This night sky references are all dropped here. It's much less allegorical, and it's much more naturalistic. We begin to see this window opening up back here, and this could be some, girl, some peasant girl for all we know. The only fantastic moment is, motif rather, is the halo and the angel's wings. The rest of it is entirely naturalistic. So we're on the way to moving out of not only the cavern universe, but this idea of reality as seen through the lens of the spirit. The Faustian world is awakening to the outer world. And here's another one of his where this sort of, now we're outside of the ceiling is gone, and we're just out in this colonnade. The angel's wings are symbolic of the rainbow. In alchemy, the rainbow signifies a certain stage of purification of the metals because it links back with the rainbow that first appeared after the flood, promising rebirth. So it's linked with the motif of rebirth. But that gives you a sense of further opening up. And then just the Netherlandish painters are among my favorite painters. And the reason I like them so much is because they paint these things that look like little miniature dolls. When they're painting, all the figures look like these sculpted little miniature dolls. This almost looks like a dollhouse. Very charming. And they also have an eye for intense realism. And they're very much interested in the details along the garments, the details here, and the way the fold of the cloth falls. And you got this sense of the bedroom. Now you have this window has opened up to a larger window. You can see the castle off into the distance. You get a sense of thrust now back into the far distance. Out here you can see this sort of canal with a lake with merchants and their boats floating along. So it's set in the middle of the afternoon. Business and commerce is happening, and here you get this supernatural event coming in the midst of all this. It's becoming less and less comfortable. This, by the way, over here is really neat. This is the sort of great chain of being represented in terms of the Archangel Michael slaying Satan the dragon, and then you have God and the angelic hierarchies up here, and all the saved are up here, and then the dead at the end of time are awakening up out of their graves. And then down here you have hell, and here you have the swallower, those jaws that I mentioned yesterday that were taken over from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. You can barely see the beast down there swallowing up all the damned. And Michael usually has a pair of scales. Here he does not, in one hand. This is one of my favorites. It may be by the same artist, Petrus Christus. And here we have the whole thing is opened up now. We are out in space. And I like this broken wall back here, very realistic detail. And we're just sort of on the doorstep now. We're out of the room. We're out of enclosures altogether. This breaking of the wall is sort of the earthly equivalent. It's like Columbus's breaking of the world-bounding, cutting of the world-bounding ocean, the serpent binding man into this closed-in terrestrial world. That's being cut at the same time that Copernicus is coming in with the heliocentric hypothesis and breaking out the cavern, the closed world. And then all of this is allegorical. This is a Romanesque portal over here. This is a Gothic. You've got the pointed Gothic portal, or rather column. And the perspective, notice, is not quite right yet. There's still a certain awkwardness with respect to depth perspective. There's this kind of nice attempt to render it here, but it isn't really consistent, is it, with the rest of the painting? There's a certain awkwardness still. Perspective was something that had to be worked out gradually. It wasn't just something, they knew what they were they unconsciously knew what they were striving for, and half-consciously, and it was a process that really took an entire century for it to get it right. From 1400 to 1500 is the crucial period. It's exactly, by the way, the period of the Portuguese navigators and the voyages of Columbus and all of those people. They're venturing out into the infinite space just as these painters are. But here the process is finished and complete. With Leonardo, the Annunciation painting has achieved its climax, and after this it begins to fall away and is represented less and less often. Because how can you go better than this? I mean, Leonardo has just brought this to full mastery. The cavern world's gone altogether. Leonardo was the first to really master perspective completely. That is to say, not just the sense of geometrical perspective, getting your vanishing point to thrust at the right point and getting everything to line up on the same geometrical plane, but also aerial and color perspective. That is to say, you have to change the gradations of the color values as you go further and further off to the horizon. The horizon, as we know, gets misty, and it takes on in Leonardo this kind of bluish tint, which you can't see in this reproduction. And he was the first to figure that out and get that right. You see it in the Mona Lisa. If you look back behind her, you see these sort of misty mountains. And all these are real plants. Everything here is real. It's been carefully copied from nature. And this is the first painting, so far as I know, to represent the wings of the angel Gabriel as sparrow wings. Those are actual, real bird wings instead of symbolic ones. And there it is. And he's very much a master of the way drapes lie. And he wants to get those folds exactly, as realistically as he possibly can. So we're shifting here, as the Jungian analyst Erich Neumann said, we're shifting here from the archetype of the heavens to the archetype of the earth. Man is coming down to the earth in a certain sense and stepping out into three-dimensional perspectival space. Now, it's worth remarking in connection with this, with respect to the precession of the equinoxes, that we have two fish in the sign of Pisces. We have a vertical fish, notice, and we also have a horizontal fish. And the precession of the equinoxes begins to move into that vertical fish between about the first couple of centuries AD. And it processes slowly through that vertical fish during the period when the Great Chain of Being is this gigantic vertical structuring sort of backbone. And then as it slowly moves through that and approaches the tail of the horizontal fish, between the year about 1000 AD and 1500 AD, you get this shift from verticality to horizontality in painting. These ships are sailing off to the horizon, breaking open the horizon, going out. There's this horizontal emphasis. There's also, of course, a vertical emphasis, since the Faustian obsession is infinite space, so you can go in any and all directions. But I find that interesting with respect to this emphasis on the expansion of the Earth horizontally and the precession of the equinoxes into that horizontal fish in Pisces. That was Jung's point in one of his words. This, just for historical fun, is just the first technically correct perspectival painting. This is